Who does this? And it really brought that focus. And that's why I feel my voice in particular, amongst others and hundreds of others, and I'm not taking all the credit for it, but that's why my voice has been silenced the most, is because of that beautiful message that I've been pushing for years, of unity, of bringing people together, of having us all under one flag. And that is what scared the government. So that's why they had to villainize. They got their media moguls on it to make sure that they could find every little hit piece they can, edit, clip, and make it out to be this thing. But guys, if you really understood that healing power that Canada brought, that we portrayed while we were there, was for those that were there, you can speak on your own experiences, but I know you felt it. You felt it. Nico passing out hugs, man. I think I got 2 from you. I think I came up to me and George. We were like, no way, he's giving out free hugs, and we got the hugs from everybody. That was what it was, and it scared them.
And on that note, let's go ahead and have a quick little song from Greg, 3 minutes. This is Bury Me With My Boots On, one of my favorite, and you're going to see a lot of imagery that's going to remind you guys about this convoy. One moment.
Song. Play my favorite country song. Burn that fire till the wood's all gone. Burn that fire till the wood's all gone. Keep it bright till the break of dawn. Don't be sad if I am gone. Just bury me with my boots on. When I die and when I'm gone, bury me with my boots on. Play my favorite country song. Burn that fire till the wood's all gone. Be it gun or be it rope, be it free from pain, I hope. And if it be when I am old, just bury me with my boots on. When I die and when I'm gone, bury me with my boots on. Play my favorite country song. Burn that fire till the wood's all gone. This is where I was born and raised. This is where I'll end my days. And Jesus lays me in my grave. I pray that I'll be saved, and that I lived in a way that makes those around me proud to say, when I die and when I'm gone, bury me with my boots on. Play my favorite country song. Burn that fire till the wood's all gone. When I die and when I'm gone, bury me with my boots on. Don't be sad if I am gone. Just burn that fire till the wood's all gone.
What an honor. There's so many faces in that video I now recognize, I've met and spoken to. And Greg, you're one of them. I saw a little cameo of you in there too.
Yeah. No, that gave me the chills. Some of that footage, the footage of the overpasses is really, really, really intense. And I guess for me, it flies in the face of the apathetic liberal Canadian. It's like, well, actually, we showed up with flags, with our trucks, and to me, that's the true character of this nation. And Pat was talking about earlier, some of the best Canadians you'll ever meet. were at the convoy, supporting the convoy, and they're humble people. They, some of them will just donate some food or some snacks or a $20 bill or some gas money, whatever. And, it's in the context too, to make it a little connected to something current. It's, I made a tweet about this a little while ago, but it's like these scummy politicians right now with this trade war with America, they are trying to invoke Canadian pride. And here's the thing. There was real Canadian pride at the trucker convoy. And all these scummy politicians, yes, including Pierre Poilievre, try to make us forget about that. They try to memory hole the convoy, which was like the most genuine and miraculous, incredible, inspiring display of Canadian pride in recent Canadian history. And they constantly try to poo-poo it, dismiss it, act like it never even happened. And I guess it's just to kind of like bring it back to like this is a evil, corrupt regime that we live under that slowly but surely, constantly just tries to denigrate us and like what this nation really means. And once again, with pieces like this from Greg Arcade, like he captured that moment, he captured that feeling, he captured that energy that we really need to internalize more often as patriots, as people who truly do, care about this country.
And Donald's got to run back to his wives, plural, as he let us know earlier. But Donald, you want to go ahead and say goodbye?
Just great to see everyone here, and just keep it going. And I'm so enthusiastic about the number of people who are watching this. But if you haven't donated yet, just go over to Give, Send, Go. I think the link's just down below this broadcast. And just give what you can. We're all trying to help Greg Arcade here. He needs our help. He's been a good friend, and he's been there for everyone for a long time. Let's do what we can. See you next time, folks.
Thank you,
Thanks, Donald.
Have a good night. And on that note, Anonymous, again, another $100 just came in. Thank you, Anonymous. Greg, your music has been a constant in my car for a long time. My young men can sing your songs word for word with enthusiasm and have your CDs in their players at home. You inspire them to be strong men and do good for others. I haven't told them your diagnosis. I'd like to wait and tell them the battle you fought and won, God willing. We lift you today. May the love heal you. Thank you very much for those messages, and everybody who's doing that, please keep them coming. I would be honored to go ahead and read them. I think, Nico, you actually wanted to kind of dovetail on something that Chelsea was saying, and then we'll jump back into this conversation.
Yeah, you said that you brought your ex-husband to kind of his first, I don't want to say his first protest, but to the convoy protest, and he felt accepted. The worst part is that all the protests that I've been to in the Quebec province, where we were more than 100,000 people, although the media made it sound like we were 20 people on a corner, yet I made sure to bring my wife and my two best friends back then to Ottawa, because I knew that the media would portray it to be completely different from what it was. And all it was a big party. It was literally a bunch. You saw how multicultural Canada is. You had white people, black people, native people, Indian people, name it, they were there, and everybody was getting along. Unlike what the media likes to portray and tell us that we're very split, yet you saw every single side of the Canadian face. Everybody was having fun. Everybody was enjoying their time there. And yet, another thing, I've been traveling the U.S. a lot over the past 3 years, and it's everywhere in the U.S. I'm in Alabama right now, and I don't think you guys realize how big of an impact that's had. Like, people, rednecks and hillbillies in the U.S. knows about the Freedom Convoy. They're all aware of it. They all know it happened. And one of the things that always blows my mind, considering the amount of protests that I've been to, is that if you look at Montreal, where I'm originally from, you have the Free Palestine protests that can go around, destroy statues, destroy whatever they want, public property, no problem. We were peacefully protesting everywhere in Quebec, everywhere in Ontario, in Ottawa. we were the problem. This is always the part that makes, I don't understand how the average Canadian cannot just see this and remember that this was done for them. We didn't, like, we did it to wake people up. That's the reason. At least, you know what? I won't say we because I won't speak for you guys, but that's the reason why I started creating content 4 years ago, to wake people up. Yet, look at what's going on today. You guys are not acceptable. You guys are in trouble because of something you did a couple of years ago. Yet we're okay with we're okay with 20-year-olds that are in universities and all the big cities in Canada protesting left or right. That's no problem, even though they're committing crimes. This is the part I don't understand what it's going to take for the average Canadian to realize that there's a massive, massive hypocrisy going on, and it needs to be addressed because you guys did nothing wrong. Yet, in my face, last time I was in Montreal, people are walking down the street on St. Catharines, the busiest street, screaming their lungs out, being violent with people around them. Yet the police officers are just there, just like, yeah, no problem. That's totally normal. So I don't know what it's going to take, and I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take, but I hope that both Chelsea, Pat, and Greg, you guys understand how what you did was important. That's all I want to mention.
It was very important to Canadians, and I also want to welcome Bennett here, the Canadian Libertarian, who has a podcast as well. Has been doing this for quite some time, and maybe one of the first that started to do this kind of thing, because I think it was even pre-COVID. But Bennett, thank you very much for joining us today, and let's go ahead and say hello to you.
Right on. Yeah, thanks a lot, Jason. And yeah, I think, I'm definitely the OG around here because it's been, 15 years, and it's been one hell of a roller coaster ride for this entire time. And it started early on. Obviously, it was pretty minimal. I mean, I could count like in single digits, especially when I first started doing this. And I look back at some of those early videos and it's like, ooh, cringy, because I just wasn't used to it. It's not my forte, but like the rest of you folks, once I seen how things were going and it had affected me, I think that's what happens to a lot of us is, we get caught up in our own lives. But when shit finally affects you and it hits you personally, that's when you get involved. And I see COVID obviously was the big thing. That was the precipice that put a lot of folks on the radar and start talking about this. And I'm just happy and pleased as pie that there's this many people that are actually speaking up and standing out. And I think we can do a lot if we can coordinate our efforts here. Because I know there's a lot of people, we have some small disagreements, some I've even a few guys in the past have had some pretty good disagreements with and stuff, because I start at things with a different, like, I'm not a statist by any stretch. I don't care for government at all, as you're probably well aware of this. So when I talk to people who have a preference for politics, there can be room for disagreement. But what I've learned over the years is, listen, most of us, we all, at the very least, all of us here, we want to head towards the directions of getting back and gaining back our liberties if they ever actually did exist. And so even if I want to travel a few extra destinations or a couple extra stops ahead of you folks, I don't care. I think we're all fellow travelers, and I'm more than willing to continue down that road. And then, when you guys get to the point where you're happy with how limited the state is, I'm pretty sure. Well, this is the thing I'll say even to the minarchists in terms of libertarians. We have a lot of internal disagreements. But like I say, the minarchists, if we get to the point where there's just that 5% of government left, yeah, you don't have to worry about me. I won't be complaining too much. But I just like to hold up things as the ideal, right? The ideal is actual genuine independence, sovereignty, and liberty for every individual. Whether we ever get to that point, I don't know. But I'm more than willing to at least be that one to step out in front and kind of lead by example. That's what I do in my own life. And like I say, as far as we can get to that point, I'd be happy, because right now, as you know, we're heading in the opposite direction and things are just getting horrendous. And I'm just going to kind of piggyback on something that Nigo was saying. And this is in particular. Now my sons are actually in a pretty good spot, but for the younger generations, and I see this, it's just so rampant everywhere. I mean, yes, I guess it's great that you can come up with different kinds of innovative ideas and creating these like structures like small homes or tiny home environment. But what a terrible fucking thing for anyone. Like, who are the people in society, especially the older ones, who keep, and a lot of them are voting for these establishment parties, but who in the hell ever turned away? When did we turn our back on wanting better for our kids and grandkids? I mean, sure, yeah. Oh, look, at least they can build a tiny home or live in a trailer park or some mobile camp or something. But that's not what we should be expecting or want for our kids and our grandkids. We should be doing what most of our generations in the past did, build and build the foundations for our kids so that they can do better than even we did. And the sad reality is we have a lot of Canadians in this country who want to basically, I don't know what it is, it's greediness or selfishness or whatever it is, but they want to soak up and accumulate a large portion of the wealth and keep it for themselves and not, allow other people to get a little bit of their share of the pie. And I'm not talking about forced redistribution. I'm just saying stop using government to benefit yourself at other people's expense. If we could have just tamped down those kinds of levels of especially intergenerational theft, I think that would go a long way to creating unity in this country. But as far as what this topic is about, my heart goes out to Greg's friend. I don't know the man personally, but I know of you guys, and I know you're good people, and I'm sure this gentleman was as well. And I'm actually going to try to learn a little bit more who he was. But my prayers do go out to him, and sorry for your loss for all you folks that did know him.
He's not gone. He's not gone. So there's a diagnosis, and he's going to be fighting this brain cancer. So he's the past tense is really giving the shivers there. He's still with us. He's watching right now. So good.
Okay, sorry.
And
I apologize.
No problem. And then I just want to acknowledge Kevin Chef, $50, and his message is, "We love you, man." And Lay Stewie, $25. Thank you very much for having that come in. And I think to answer your question, Bennett, is these people are lacking faith, family, and future. They're not looking at that. And, and when you lose sight of those three things, in my mind, in my heart, then you won't fight for anything but yourself. So faith, family, and future is where I think people need to put their hearts. Greg, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, real quick, I wanted to thank to Maureen Brown with the $10. Bless you all. Thank you very much. Any super chats that are coming to me today, I'm going to be passing on to Mr. Greg Arcade and his Gifts and Go fundraiser. But yeah, no, I think you're bringing up a lot of good points there in terms of like the problems with Canada. People might talk about policies, they might talk about politicians. I think it's actually a really deep one. I think there's some sort of deep spiritual problem with what's going on with Canadians, and it really is. It's something where we do. It kind of defies logic sometimes. Like it needs to be this thing where we really think deeply about who we are and what we want for our future. There's a sort of if we can't stand up as people, as like if we don't have the courage to speak out against the evil, if we don't have the courage to use our freedom of speech, then it's over. And that might seem obvious, but if you look at the state of the Conservative Party, who's supposed to be the opposition and supposed to be our saviors, they have basically agreed and convinced their entire base of support that not using your free speech, not being brave is how we're going to win. We need to be strategic to win. And to me, this speaks to like this problem that is not, again, it's not like a policy. It's not like a logical thing. It's like, no, we're being cowards. We're accepting this cowardice. We're accepting this idea that we have to just try to, be more clever. And that's really what's killing us. Like we need to have bravery and courage. And it really does, sometimes I feel like I probably sound like a crazy person because the convoy, I bring up the convoy so much, but like it's so demonstrative, like it's so demonstrative of like what the problem is, which is, and I'm actually helping make a documentary about this right now, which is to try to like remind people that these people like Pat King, like the Jeremy McKenzie's, the Archer Proflowski's, Coots for, these people were persecuted for having an opinion in Canada. Like that's not a free country. That's not a free country to have that happen. And because the CBC isn't telling the story, because major media outlets aren't telling the story, it needs to be repeated in the right sort of urgency and also in sort of the right framework. Wow. And with this documentary that I'm developing, I wanted to kind of like start with the first problem, which is the fear. People need to stop being afraid to use their freedom of speech and really realize what's at stake here. And yeah, Pat, I would definitely love to, do another interview with you at some point, but you were saying?
Hey, hold on,
100%.
Pat. Just hold on, Pat. I'll be right with you. I got Pastor Arthur Pulowski just messaged me. I don't know if he's watching or not, but he said thank you very much because we invited him on. He's at his mother's funeral. Sorry, we'll just mute you there, Chelsea. He's at his mother's funeral today, and he can't be with us today. And then we also have Freedom ukuleles with $25. Your talents have been and will be a blessing to all of us. May God heal you and hold your family in love and comfort. At Agnostic Academy again of LJC, $120. With all our love, kindness, and best wishes, we are all at prayer for you in this moment and going forward. We will be with you through this part of your journey, and we know God walks softly, quietly by your side. On behalf of the good birds at the Agnostic Academy, we love you. Thank you very much. That's like 3 donations from them so far, so thank you very much. Go ahead, Pat.
Sorry, I'm just going to jump in really quick. We're $56 away from 7,000.
Let's do this.
So
somebody throwing $56 right now.
$56 in for Greg Arcade and his family. If anyone's able to, it would be amazing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pat.
Well, one of the things I was going to say was it was amazing that you had Bennett on here because as a lot of you guys know, I wasn't just about the convoy. I've been speaking about freedom of speech for years, and I have been one of the most, if not the most censored in Canada for over the last 10 years, trying to get these stories out. And Bennett actually did a piece on myself and another gentleman that I was with, and we were going around in 2019. We went around all Canada holding town hall meetings to explain what was happening in Canada. And we actually were initially starting out at the legions in respect and in honor of our members of the military, because they had fought and died for these rights that we have for freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, all of that stuff. They made sure that Canada was a free country. So in paying respects to that, we were traveling and we had scheduled showings in these legions, and I had organized it all. I worked with every legion and I went through, and then all of a sudden we get down to that cesspool that is the Ottawa Valley. And I'm not just trying to lump everybody in there. It's the area of the most biggest group of cancel culture, little whining, crying, Antifa kind of mentality that we experienced when we got down there, to the point that they had to do a CBC hit piece. And I was a nobody at the time, but I made frontline news because the Canadian legions had to denounce us and had to say, no, you don't have the ability of free speech in our establishment. So we ended up having to scramble and reorganize and reschedule at different places. But Bennett did an amazing piece on it to speak about how free speech was being eradicated back then in Canada, just from 2 guys trying to talk about the oil and gas industry and talk about what our government was doing. And ever since then, it's been an ongoing attack against free speech in Canada. If you don't go along with their narrative, then you don't count. And then what does that do? You get guys like me that are like, oh yeah, hold my beer, watch this. And you get what we get. And if I said it the other night in my show, the government policies and Trudeau's woke ideologies and Biden's woke ideologies in the United States and everything that they've done is they swung the pendulum so far left in such a hurry, then force feeding it down our throats, that the inevitable was what was coming. And they planned it this way. But now what you're getting now in the political realm is that pendulum now has no choice but to swing so far right to correct all of the bullshit that they did. And that in itself scares the living shit out of me, because now you're going to get people that are going to stand up. They're going to fight. It's going to get mad. It's going to get bad. But that's what you're getting. And like you said, Jay, now everybody's trying to get on and jump on board on the Team Canada and booing national anthems. Ladies and gentlemen, I had the opportunity to be at the Raptors game when a young 15-year-old girl for the first time got to stand up in front of the Raptors and the LA Clippers in a giant stadium to sing the national anthem. And that young girl, you can see it in her face, was so nervous. And she was just fighting through her nerves to get that out. And as soon as she started to sing the American national anthem and that arena started booing that young girl, that's where my patriotism came in. And I made sure that everybody around us knew how friggin' pissed off I was that they were booing this young girl and how disgusting your Team Canada mentality was, that you made that little girl probably cry after she walked back out off that. Are you proud, Canada? And that's who I'm talking. I'm not talking to the ones who are on board with this, but to the ones out there that are the haters. Are you proud of yourselves for being so toxic and so vile that you can ruin a young girl's experience for the first time that she got that opportunity to sing that national anthem? You look yourselves in the mirror and ask yourselves, are you a good person? Because really, truthfully, in my mind, you're disgusting. And that is absolutely not what Team Canada is about. So free speech in this country is out the window. But now you've swung it so far to the right. I'm back.
Do you know?
Hold a second, just one second. What
Yeah.
Team Canada does is the donations. We just hit over $7,000. Thank you to Faith and Hope, $25. You're used to fighting. You can do it again. And Scott Campbell, thank you very much for 60. This is what put us over the top, Scott. Thank you very much. $7,000.
Thanks, Scott.
Keep coming, Canada. Let's try and hit that 10. Let's try and hit that 10 within the next hour. Go ahead, Chelsea.
Yeah, let's hit the 10. Just to again piggyback on what Pat just said. So my kids' school they were singing the anthem at a Sudbury Wolves game up here in the lovely Northern Ontario.
I know what she's talking about.
Oh. Anyway, but so the kids were singing the anthems, and there's in the stadium, there's a picture of the Queen, not the King, of the Queen, back behind where we were sitting. And I'm sure you guys can see I'm kind of a shit disturber. But I've got an American flag and a Trump flag in my window. I'm a very proud Canadian. I love this country. But I do like to shit disturb from time to time. I don't know where I get that from. Doesn't make any sense. But anyway, back to the hockey game. So I love the American anthem. It pulls on my heart in a way that the Canadian anthem doesn't. And I'm not entirely sure why that is, but it's a fact of my life. So anyway, it was this incredible thing that happened. This is before Christmas. So it was before any talk of tariffs. It was before it was before the inauguration. It was before any of that. And this insane thing happened, which is, I like hand on heart singing, "Oh, Canada, I will always," right? But when the American anthem came on, hand on heart, I know every word. And my husband and I stood and sang the national anthem with my children for the United States because they were playing an American hockey team. And everyone else in the stadium turned and looked at the Queen. And the only ones who weren't looking at the Queen were glaring at us. And so I just sang my heart out. But like, if anyone thinks that this is new, what's going on, it's not new. This is a terrible, atrocious thing that Canadians have always done, which is I've always said we like pat ourselves on the back and tell ourselves that we're better than the Americans. No, we're not better. Americans actually feel like tied to something beautiful and wonderful, and they have hope that there's something better always around the corner. And Canadians are just like, well, we're better. We don't have to do anything. We're better because we're not them. And yeah, anyway, I'm it's a little bit off course, but I think that it's important to remember that this booing of the anthem is not a new thing. This is how Canadians have acted for a long time. And again, when we come back to the community that we all have across time and space, and Nico, you might be able to talk about this as someone who's in Alabama, or I think, or Louisiana. I'm not sure. I can't remember what you said now, but like, it's like a virus within our country. Like, we've been infected with this anti-Americanism, and I have no patience for it. These are our brothers, sisters, cousins, in this country. And again, I'll just bring back always to this community that we have. And we want to show that like we are not the hateful ones.
Mhm.
We are the proud. We are the proud ones, not only of our country, but of our, brothers and sisters to the south. So anyway, just a little anecdotal story about my experience at the Sudbury Wolves game.
Well, and just to jump in on that,
before
remember the time.
Right seconds, I have to do these. Mackenzie, $10. Thank you very much. With love and healing through thoughts sent your way. And we have Donna M with $25. Thank you very much, Donna. And I got a message from a donor who's donated a couple of times. Give, Send, Go has a limit of 2 donations a day. So if you're trying to spread it out throughout the day, maybe consider doing it in 1 or 2 donations, because they do have a limit of 2 donations a day. Sorry about that, Pat. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, no worries. Just to go off of what Chelsea said too, guys, there was a moment, and I'm in Alberta. I was at the game in Edmonton when the mics cut out, and we all sat there and we sang the American national anthem, maybe even better than the Americans. But that was a sign of Team Canada. When the mic pops off and they can't get the national anthem out, we stood up, and it was so loud, the goosebumps on your body of how patriotic and how understanding we are to our American brothers in the South. I have friends that are American. I have friends that have left Canada to go down to America. I've been doing my podcasts with Americans now. So I'm getting down there and starting to talk with the Americans, and they're understanding, hey, man, we supported you guys. We backed you guys with your convoy. We loved what you guys did. We were cheering you on from the sidelines. In fact, we did our own little ones around Washington, D.C. They never got onto the media. The media scrummed it all. They hid it all from us to show that the Americans were right beside us. And now what you've got is everybody thinking Orange Man bad, and he's coming against us, but you have no idea, in fact, how bad Canada has been towards the Americans in our trade alliance that we have. And to be honest, the Americans are, like Chelsea said, our brothers, our sisters, our cousins, our uncles. They are us. And you got to understand that, ladies and gentlemen, you're being played. You are being played by this government once again, these suit dummies in Ottawa, and Donald Trump is just trolling them and making them look absolutely horrible. Doug Ford, big, burly, tough Doug Ford, sure backed down real quick when Donald Trump chimed back up about his tariffs on the electricity. What power, what audacity do you have to say you're going to cut the power off? You're going to increase the tariffs on the people in these states just south to you. Like that, honestly, that is disgusting. And Doug Ford, I've never appreciated Doug Ford, but just that was the icing on the cake. All these premiers were brought down for a meeting with Donald Trump and Mar-a-Lago. They all came back with positive influence, positive thoughts, positive everything. And then all of a sudden you come back and you double down. Why? Because Mr. Fancy Socks and his little handlers at the WEF and all of these people that are saying, no, we need that divide back, because you don't got the divide between Canadians anymore. Canadians are all understanding you're all pieces of shit. And even the left and the right are both agreeing. So we need a new division. So let's pit our neighbors to the south. Nah, Canada, you're better than that. Everybody out there, and hear this loud and hear it louder. We are better than that. Stop doing that. These Americans love us, and they want to see us succeed. Stop the bullshit.
100% true. And Craig, you want to go ahead and throw that donation up?
Yeah. $60 from Mechanics. Do it for Greg and family. Thank you so much for the super chat. All my super chats are going to be going to support Greg Arcade and his GoFundMe. And yeah, just to piggyback off of that, if you don't mind, is that all right, Jason?
Yeah, go ahead, and then we'll get into a song after.
The whole elbows up thing. There's like, hey, elbows up, Canada. It's like that's a dirty move to do in sports, to have your elbows up. Like that's not very sportsmanlike. I'm sorry, is that the Canadian thing, to not be very sportsmanlike? But yeah, this they're really, this kind of speaks to the problems, the spiritual problems of Canadians, and it's that we don't have the sense of pride and nationalism that a lot of Americans do. And ever since I've been alive, we've had this weird sort of anti-American way to define ourselves. And the way that I sort of like summarize it is, you know, like this is kind of really much from my own experience. You know, like I was born in the late 80s, and growing up in the 90s, I always kind of thought, okay, like we are not American. Those Americans, they're so pompous. They're, you know, July 4th, like my freedom, you know, they're idiots. They're at Walmart. Like they're just consumers. Like they're just all, we're not that, right? We're not that. And the thing is when we say we're not that, we're actually saying we're not patriotic, because in that definition of being American, it's kind of being full of yourself a little bit, kind of being like, hey, I like being American. USA, USA. It means something. My Constitution. That sort of autonomy that a lot of Americans have of being animated. There's so many valuable things in there for a true democracy. You have citizens who care about the Constitution. You have citizens who care about elections. A lot of Americans treat their politics like sports. They get more involved. They get more active. They get more into voting. They have the buttons and stuff like this. It's more of like an American pastime and celebration. Whereas in Canada, it's like, oh, time to change the thermostat. Time to like elect somebody else. It's a very sort of passive activity that you know, that a lot of Canadians hardly even pay attention to, let alone get excited about. And I think that's like that is the sort of poison pill in this sort of American anti-Americanism. It's actually anti-patriotism. It's anti-true patriotism in being like kind of boisterously proud of who you are. And I think that this moment too, with the trade war and all these people like booing the national anthem and everything, it's like, what is actually about Canada in that? Like is Canadian pride hating America? Is that what it means to be a proud Canadian? It's just like shitting on Donald Trump. Like that's once again, we're defining ourselves just by being like a hater of America. To me, that's not what being Canadian is about. Sure, there is a sort of like difference, like since our founding, that it's like, okay, we're not going to be America, but like there needs to be more than that, guys. There needs to be more that's more substantial. That speaks to, you know, why we're actually different. And it speaks to our connection to the crown and the UK, and like we don't have to get into all that, but I think we can all agree that this sort of just like, hey, we all hate Trump and that's what makes us Canadian, is just totally silly and shallow.
They've made our patriotism here in Canada as nationalism. If anybody knows, and I'm a prime example of the attacks on that, I'm patriotic to Canada 100%. I love this bloody country. But then when I stand up for that, I've been called a nationalist. Now I'm a white nationalist. They had to put the identity politics on it now. Now I'm a white nationalist. This is wrong, but this is what we deal with here in Canada. Hi, Melissa McKee.
Yeah, Melissa's joining us, and what we're going to do is we'll jump to a song quick and let everybody get a little bathroom break in there. But Americans are so good at being involved in the political system that they even vote Democrat after they die. That's how involved they are. A lot of votes from the Democrats from the dead. But let's go.
What song were you thinking? What song were you thinking?
I have The Great Awakening queued up because it's not in our list because YouTube wouldn't let me download it. But I'm going to stream The Great Awakening. This is one of his more recent releases.
Okay. Sure, yeah,
and
that's a good one.
And I think it will work good. So let me just go ahead and put this on the stage here, and let's enjoy this one.
Things are not what they seem to be. Things are not adding up to what I was led to believe. Listening to your heart is the key to not being deceived. It feels like I've been shaken awake. I'm not sure if I'm asleep, cause this reality is hard to take. It doesn't feel like it'll be okay. Am I living in a bad dream? I know deep down inside I'd rather bathe in the truth than run and hide. Waking up to the lies of what's been going on. The darkest turns to light and I can see what's right and wrong. Whose side I'm on, how I can carry on now that my old life's gone. It's great to be awake with the rising of the sun. It's hard to tell what's real anymore when I see what's going on outside my front door. But I can't close my eyes and pretend it's okay like I did before. The hardest part about waking up is refusing to shut your eyes and hitting that snooze button. You got to choose to go back to sleep or leave behind this comfort you don't need. You've got to reach deep down inside and raise your vibe if you're gonna survive. Waking up to the lies of what's been going on. The darkness turns to light and I can see what's right and wrong. Whose side I'm on, how I can carry on now that my old life's gone. It's great to be awake with the rising of the sun. I've known people who've known the truth, but they're afraid of being accused of a bad name they heard on the news, and so they choose to make an excuse. Well, I refuse to take that abuse. Waking up to the lies of what's been going on. The darkness turns to light and I can see what's right and wrong. Whose side I'm on, how I can carry on now that my old life's gone. Waking up to the lies of what's been going on. The darkness turns to light and I can see what's right and wrong. Whose side I'm on, how I can carry on now that my old life's gone. It might not be what I thought all along, but waking up, it's never fun. It's great to be awake with the rising of the sun.
Oh, sorry, you're muted.
Greg Arcade, what an artist. And I just got another message I just want to share with everybody here. This is coming from Kevin Watson. He just wanted to remind people that when they were all in court for the Coots situation, a group of Americans drove up as far away from Texas to come show support at the Coots trial. And the shaking of the hands and the hugging across the line of the fence itself at Coots itself was something that happened as well. Americans were supporting Canadians. My gosh, can we not do the same? And Becky McCaffrey, for the third time today, $50. Thank you, Greg, for your fight for freedom and truth. May God hold you and your family in their arms. And Becky let us know that if you change your email address, you can donate again. So she was having trouble until she used a different email address. But thank you very much for that. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you for the donation. Yeah, no, I love that song. That was part of a whole album, if I'm not mistaken, in Great Awakening. That I think that might be actually be his latest full length album, and that's definitely one of my more favorite tracks from him. And yeah, like he's it's yeah, I guess I don't know. Like there's a lot. I have a lot to say about his music making ability because he helped bring a lot of my music to life. And he does it all. Like he records the drums, the bass, the rhythm, the lead guitar. He's a sound engineer, so he knows how to record it properly with all the mics and everything, and then he can mix and master it and everything. And not only that, he also kind of like hits hits the nail on the head of that feeling that I think a lot of us have felt of being red pilled, getting red pilled, waking up to the lies that have been going on. Yeah. So,
Oh, wow.
great draw.
We just got a
Great
huge donation. I got to put this up. We just got a huge You Inspired. Chelsea, go ahead and make your little call out there as I get this ready.
Yeah, I just want to do a little action call. I know Greg's wonderful wife has put up some of the things that the money is going to be used for, diet and alternative treatments and all that stuff. I've connected Greg to someone who can, I know we're on YouTube, so I won't say the names of the meds, but I've connected him to a supplier here in Ontario who's going to be able to help him with, a protocol like Dr. Max's. So some like this money is going to be going to those meds and the shipping as well. So I just wanted to do a little action call to people to say, like, it's not going to take much. It's not very expensive. It's actually quite cheap. But I just wanted to, encourage people to support him in his endeavors through alternative treatments while he's going through this. So.
And reminder to everybody, Dr. Mackes has been in touch. I have contacted him about this yesterday. He is going to talk to Greg and do what he can for Greg. So there was hundreds of people that behind the scenes online ever said, contact Mackes, contact Mackes. Mackes is aware of Greg at this stage, and they're going to be finding some time in the future. So we'll make that happen. And then thank you very much to Ryan Albright for $300 for Greg and his family. Thank you very much, Ryan. That's very generous of you. We really appreciate that. And we are now at almost $7,500. Let's get a couple more in there to get to $7,500.
Let's go.
We're reaching 3,400 people on 14 platforms right now. Thank you to everybody who's sharing this out. And if you want to restream it, copy it, whatever, please do. Don't worry. All of this is free to do. No license issues. Please get this message out there. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, thank you so much for that huge donation. Big record. We have somebody competing with Anonymous right now with $300 donation. Thanks a lot. No, you love to see it. You love to see it, and I really feel like this sort of these sort of events to come together and support people is what we really need more of. I've noticed since the convoy, there's been this sort of gatekeeping that's happened where if you don't support Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative Party, then you kind of get out, like you get cut out. You're not sitting with us. You're not allowed. I noticed this right away after the convoy because, I was there. I was put on the list for people Randy Hillier can't talk to. I saw Jeremy McKenzie get dragged off the jail and all the other stories going on and no one talking about it. And then I saw Poilievre gain this popularity. He cynically took a photo with James Topp, and then all this stuff happened. Anyway, I started a whole podcast about it called Controlled Opposition to be like, hey, I really don't like this Conservative Party because I feel like they're leading us astray. And I guess the point is like, outside of the Conservative Party, there's what you would call, I guess, the far right. There's a bunch of different characters in the far right. And we agree on a lot, but we've been through a lot, and a lot of us might feel hurt or damaged or traumatized. And there's a sort of lack of unity there that I think we've been experiencing. And I don't think there's like any fingers to point or kind of like people to get mad at necessarily. I think it's just kind of like part of the process of like what we've all been through. And I think that, I actually talked to your dad, Chelsea, at one point, and I said, is it me, or do like 50% of the people that you meet in Canadian politics who are like in the right wing, 50% of the people you meet who are like somewhat competent and kind of are pushing a message, 50% of them end up being like political operatives or like people who are just like there to kind of try to get you back into the Conservative Party, or maybe they're there to like demoralize you or whatever. And I guess the point is like there are forces that be that are trying to prevent us from uniting. There are forces that be that are trying to prevent us from like actually creating something to unify against the establishment. you know. And I feel like moments like this, when like, you know, morality comes in, or not morality, but mortality, the fact that we are only here for so long, that people do get sick, and you know, Greg Arcade is now fighting cancer. It's like, that's a good reminder of, we only have so much time here, and there's only so much we can do. And at times, although we might hate one another on certain things, maybe we get on each other's nerves, I think we have the same goal at the end of the day, to try and help this country. And I feel like moments like this are a good reminder to try and put aside our differences, maybe swallow our pride a little bit, you know, put our egos aside and be like, okay, well, actually, how can we help this situation?
Yeah. Well, you and I talked a little bit about this yesterday, and I spoke with Edgy and Lee about this as well yesterday, and some various other people. There's certainly, you know, there was a time when, like during COVID, that we all sort of came together, and then, you know, in the sort of intervening years, we started to fracture, and there were these, you know, difficult relationships, and people got mad at one another, and you could just see like the fractures and the wounds. And, you know, I think to some extent that was just the fracturing was part of, you know, what we had all been through, and we were all trying to cope with it in our own ways. But certainly when I spoke to you yesterday, and to Edgy and to Lee and to various other people, the conversation was like, okay, now we're being reminded of why we all came together in the first place. And we came together in the first place in order to build a community and support one another, and make sure that everyone had a home and no one felt alone, right? And I really feel like, you know, what's happening with Greg right now is an important and timely reminder. Not that any of us want him to be going through this, of course, you know, like that it's the last thing that any of us would hope for. But Greg right now becomes the rally call for us to remember where we all started and where we all came from, and why we all knew each other in the first place. And this isn't about Diagolon. It's not about the far right. It's not about the fringe. It's not about any of that stuff. It's about why were we all brought together in the first place? And this is God's great plan, right? God's great plan is to make sure that we all know that we're not alone in this world. Mm-hmm. And I think that today is an amazing opportunity for us to start to heal some of those fractures, heal some of those wounds that have, you know, cropped up over the last couple of years, and just, yeah, come together and rally around one of ours who has done such amazing things for so many people. So it's not how it's not how any of us would have wanted to come back together in terms of the reason. But right now, Greg is the reason. And Meg Ramack, who's going to come on, I think, in a little bit, who's worked with Greg extensively and is a good friend of his, you know, she's echoed these same sentiments. This is like Greg Arcade saves Canada, basically. And I don't even think that's an exaggeration, right? This is about unifying everyone.
I want to piggyback on that to say, you know, the convoy was effective for a couple of very specific reasons. And, you know, people want to try to recreate the convoy or whatever. And it's like, well, it's very difficult to do that. But there are reasons why the convoy worked. And I think that we should try to, you know, emulate or remind ourselves of. And I believe it's because of the urgency and the focus. So the convoy worked because there was a tremendous amount of urgency and desperation. If you were unvaccinated at the time in Canada, there was nothing else to do other than go to Ottawa and protest about these mandates. Like the urgency was obviously there. The desperation was obviously there. People were at their wits' end. And so the urgency was there. It was evident. And then number two is the focus. people, there's been protest movements in the past where it's kind of all over the place. It's like this long laundry list of things, whatever. But for the convoy, it was like end the mandates. It was simple. There didn't have to be any sort of unifying, plan. People knew it intuitively. That it was the mandates that is why we were there. And I guess, I think it's an important reminder, because a lot of people, and I've been there, feel demoralized, feel like there's no solution, feels like there's nothing we can do. And like, oh, well, how are we going to affect political change in the country? It's like, well, let's not forget, miraculously, we did it with the convoy. Miraculously, it worked. We got more funding than any political party does through donations. We, got international attention. We ended the mandates, because when that happened, the mandates, provincial mandates, started to reverse like literally the second that the trucks got there on Wellington Street. And so it's a reminder that we can do something and make a difference and change, actually have this is what a democracy is supposed to be, right? Where the people actually stand up and say, hey, this is what we want. So we can have that. But I guess it's a matter now, I think, of knowing that, running out into the street with a bunch of different demands doesn't really work, though. There needs to be the focus, and there also needs to be like the right amount of urgency that's communicated in the right way. Like we need to kind of like almost like do our homework a little bit and do a little bit more work next time to like know how to actually affect change in the country.
God bless for that. And it's good timing, because our next 3 donations, they all have prayers attached to them. And I actually want to kind of throw out a little thanks to Give, Send, Go, because Give, Send, Go is one of the ones that kind of stepped up and fought against their government to try and do their best. And they did a lot of hard work. They got hacked, probably from the Canadian government. And then people were chastised for donations. We can get into that a little bit later. But let me just acknowledge Beverly for $100, sending love and prayers to Greg and his family. Thank you very much, Beverly. Brian from the Agnostic Church, my gosh, they're on fire, not literally. $20 and healing and prayers are coming out of Brian from the Agnostic Church. And then Teresa Thomas, $25, sending prayers and sending love. So those are 3 donations that just came in as we were talking, all related to prayers. And speaking of prayers, we got one of the best, God's Angels himself is joining us, Melissa McKee from the Bikers Church. And Melissa, I'm wondering, do you want to kind of lead us in a little bit of a prayer here?
Yeah, I will, but I was debating for a couple hours. I had it live. Rob and I are in the garage cleaning and been going, like, do I get on? Don't I? But I'm looking at my husband, who is a 25-year cancer survivor. And so I thought I should probably get on here and encourage Greg Arcade to just put all his hope and his faith in Christ. So my husband, Rob, was diagnosed in the year 2000 with leukemia. And so he was given 1 year to live. He could not have a bone marrow transplant, which is kind of just like the automatic treatment for leukemia. He had acute myelogenous leukemia. He was 29 at the time. I was 25. I was pregnant with Dax. We had just moved to Toronto. We were homeless. We were looking for a place to live, just got a new job there for him. And so our life was completely turned upside down. There is never a good time for a diagnosis, ever. So, we were given this news, and it was to take. It really felt like we were a Mack truck. The doctor I said to the doctor, well, can I take him home? And we'd been in the ER. He got 4 blood transfusions and then felt like a new man. And I said, can I take him home? And the doctor looked at me and he said, Mrs. McKee, your husband is very sick. And I was like, no, he just has the flu. Like hearing the words cancer didn't even, I could not compute. And so there's such a range of emotions that happens. I have walked that road. And so, Rob and I were people of faith. We make no apologies about that. We are very loud and proud about our faith in God. And so we immediately started to pray, and praying people started to gather around us. And they came to us at one point and said that, he would not be able to have a bone marrow transplant, so he will likely die. And we also would not be able to have any more kids because the treatment that they were giving him would, render him sterile. So that was it. Like it was devastating in all kinds of ways, on all kinds of levels. And so we began to pray. We really did believe that God is a healer. And that is for today. It's not just stories that we read about in the Bible, because Jesus is a living God. And so I do want to pray. I would love to lead everybody in prayer. And I hope Greg is watching right now. I don't know him, but God does. God
Mhm.
sees everything. And he knew this to come, actually. God doesn't do these things to us. God is not a tormentor. And so there is a devil, though. There is an enemy. He is our enemy. And he does not want us to thrive. He doesn't want us to succeed. He doesn't want us to be unified. And, it's funny. I heard, like, Daisy texted me this morning, hey, do you know anybody that would want to hop on? Like, they just decided this yesterday. And I'd seen the tweets last night. And I thought, what an incredible thing. We're going to get online for 12 hours and there will be no shortage of things to talk about. Go for 12 hours and we won't have trouble finding things to say. And Greg, I heard you say earlier, I talk about convoy. It feels like the inexhaustible topic to me. It's inexhaustible. It is my favorite thing to talk about. Now, I want to clarify, I'm not parked there. I'm not trying to relive convoy. It's not like I haven't moved forward.
Mhm.
I love talking about convoy because it left an indelible mark on me. And I'm so proud of what it required of me and of Bikers Church and so many people that were here in Ottawa ready to welcome everybody. I mean, I feel sad that I didn't get the experience of coming across the country with the convoy, but I was so proud that we were the ones here waiting to hold everybody, waiting to gather and, shelter and feed and all of that stuff. So this is inexhaustible. And I think you could pick any day of the week and put us all in a room and we would not run out of things to say. And I think that's part of like the miraculous thing, that one of the miraculous things that happened with Convoy. And so now we have this beautiful community, and it is. And I know that there are a lot of things have changed since Convoy. We now know people's personalities. People have a lot more opinions. There was one thing, right, unified us. It was the mandates. That was the one thing, was all the same. And now we realize we're not actually all the same, but there is something we should be the same in, and that is like wanting the best for our fellow man. And so that's what we're here for today. We're here for Greg Arcade, and yeah, let's pray. Okay, I'm
Thank
gonna.
you.
Father, I thank you for this wonderful thing that these guys have been willing to do, Lord, giving up a whole Saturday and people tuning in from all over the country and beyond, and once again donating their time, their talent, and their treasure. And Father, I want to speak your healing over Greg Arcade's body right now in the name of Jesus, the living God. Lord, it was resurrection power that rose you out of that grave. And that is why we pray to you alone, because you are the only one with power. So, Father, right now we pray for his body, that you would eradicate the cancer miraculously. God, I'm going to pray that, knowing, Lord, that there will be things that he has to walk through regardless. But God, we do not stop believing that you would heal his body. And Lord, having walked a cancer journey myself, I know, Lord, that you used that experience with my own husband to do of other miraculous things. God, today is one of the miraculous things. It's reminding all of us why we're here and what we should be about, and to put aside differences and to come together once again. So, Father, I pray that the miracles would begin to happen, and that one of his family members would become the recorder of the miracles. God, that relationships would be restored. that you would be a provider of money when they think it's impossible, that you would show yourself faithful, Lord. God, I pray that you would heal his body, that you would open doors that no one else could open but by a miraculous God. So, Father, right now we take authority over the spirit of infirmity and disease and even fear. God, we surrender it to you, Lord, and we pray that Greg would take every thought captive. Lord, that he would not let vain imaginations run off with him. Take those vain imaginations, all those thoughts of fear that will creep in, that will niggle at him, Lord. We just silence them in the name of Jesus. We speak life over his body right now, God. We speak, Lord, I pray this all the time for people. You took a handful of dirt in the Garden of Eden and you breathed the breath of life into it, God, and you made a man. Will you breathe your breath of life into Greg's body right now in the name of Jesus? Lord, your miraculous healing power, may it be his. May there be an army of angels that surround him and his family. I thank you, God, that what you have planned is so much greater than what the enemy does, and you have authority. And I pray this in the all powerful, all knowing, all present name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Melissa. I really appreciate it. And I think God is listening right now because holy smokes, I'm not sure if you guys saw, we're over 8,000 now. 8 Jametsky, $300 donation, and he's provided some information about alternative medical and medicine care. I can't put it up on YouTube, but Ed, thank you very much for that $300. Brick Fist, $300. Too many more years of driving around bullshitting while we go from home to home, visiting crazy people. Brick Fist, thank you very much. We're getting large donations coming in now. Thank you all. We're all now over $8,000. Pat, I know you got to run, so let me just get you on here. And Melissa, you've touched me every time. So if you're in the Ottawa area, go to Bikers Church, go shake Melissa's hand, hug her husband. He's a survivor. But Pat?
Yeah, so Melissa, it's always a pleasure. And it's always, that woman has changed my heart. I'll tell you all right now, when I was in a dark time during the convoy, when there was some internal issues going on, we went to go look at Bikers Church to see what was going on there. I went for a bowl of soup. I walked in the door and I met Melissa. And the first thing she did was, "Oh my God, you're," and it was a great interaction. She said, "How are you doing?" And I broke down into tears. And I had a moment where I was bawling my eyes out because there were some internal things going on that I didn't agree with and that I had, expressed my opinions of. And that's when I'll leave it out of this, but there is some pretty bullshit stuff that happened. Anyways, I looked for refuge. I came to Melissa. Melissa has been my rock in jail. When I was in jail, she would come and visit me. She was one of the only ones who was able to come and visit me that they accepted. We prayed lots together. So I've seen the genuine heart that she has when it comes to this, and the church community as well, the biker church community, and Rob as well. I've had many a dinner over at their house. Jay, we were there together. We had a great meal. So I do feel she's brought me closer to that man upstairs, albeit I've had a very many an argument with that guy. And I still am holding on to the belief that, it is better this way. But at the same time, I just want to put out a message to everybody. I do have to run. Guys, no matter what you've done, no matter what your participation was in all of this, no matter where you stood on the highway or you stood in Ottawa or your vehicle and all of that, we all have our own particular experiences that we took out of this. Those are your experiences. These are my experiences. These are what I've gone through. These are what you've gone through. But we can all come together and understand we all went through them. I'm going to put a request out to everybody out there. And this is my vow to everyone. Stop the infighting. Stop the negativity back and forth at each other. Stop saying he said, she said, this, and this. I'm guilty of it, okay? But this is my solemn vow to everybody out there. Enough. This battle is bigger than you and I. This battle is bigger than anybody's ego in all of this. we need to start coming back together again, and we need to start allowing ourselves that healing, because I've been 3 years silent, and even I catch myself on my podcast trying to, I want to say things, but I don't. But it's time we all come together again and put our differences aside, everybody, myself included. One of my biggest things is when I do get my podcast and I am back in Montreal, and one of my first shows is I want to have a reunion with just the organizers, with just the original ones that I put together, that I brought everybody to the table, and we all had that moment where there were no egos. And I want to hear everybody's experiences on my podcast so that we can get it out for the rest of the country to understand what happened. And secondly, my message to everybody in the panel, Nico, I look forward to doing a podcast with you. Greg, we're going to have to get something together as well. Jay, yourself as well. Melissa, I'll see you probably in about 70 days. So once this little shackles are off my hands and I can get out of here. But to Greg, I'm going to say this right to you. One thing that I went to jail for, and one thing that I stood up for, and one thing as I've always stood for, is something that I want to hope that you can do yourself. And that is hold the line, bro. We got you. We're going to take care of it. We're going to come together as a family, and we're going to try and do everything we can to make sure you guys are okay. And that is one of the reasons why we're on here. I've never met you. I don't know who you are, but I do know that we are family. I've heard your music, but I do know that we are all family in all of this. I don't care who likes or doesn't like or whatever. This isn't about likes and dislikes. This is about family. And that is a Canadian pride thing. We take care of our own. And with that, Jay, thanks very much to Jay, Greg, Melissa, Nico, Bennett, everybody that I've talked to on here, Chelsea as well. You guys carry it on. Maybe if I have some time later on this afternoon, I'd love to come back on and have this discussion again. But I appreciate everybody's hard work and efforts here. So thanks, guys. We'll see
So just give me 1 minute before you go, Pat. A little miracle just happened. So let me share it with you first. Little Mama, $300. Our little ones will grow up to be besties, she says. Thank you very much, Little Mama. Anonymous giver, another 25. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and those who are crushed in spirit, he saves. Thank you to anonymous donor. Michelle Krakalaka, $50. I know you'll fight this with everything you have. We are praying for you and your lovely family. Stay strong. Much love. The Agnostic Academy, again, don't you dare show 1 ounce of lack of faith moving forward. Not once. Act like you're already cured. Pray in every effing day in his name. That's a commandment. And I'm not sure how to say this, but Arufka, $400. Can't wait for your return to the office. This makes it $1,500 in about 10 minutes. $1,500 in about 10 minutes. We're almost at $9,000. We're going to hit that 10. Thank you, Canada. That's a miracle. Pat, have yourself a wonderful day. If you can come back, just hit me first because I got to make sure there's no breaches. But hit me first before you come back. But Pat, thank you so much. And you have yourself a wonderful day, brother.
Absolutely, guys. Take care, everybody. I love each and every one of you guys. And just remember, we are Team Canada. Remember.
Absolutely. I just wanted to talk about a couple donations. I got a $25 from Caesar, who said, Christ is King. Thank you very much, sir. He actually said that right before the prayer, so it was divine timing. And then also another one from Gnostic Academy in the super chats. I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. Absolutely. I'm loving all of this this Jesus Christ talk. And yeah, any super chats to my channel, I'm just going to be forwarding on to Greg Arcade for his Give, Send, Go. The link is in the description. I'm feeling good right now after that prayer. Thank you so much for that, Melissa. That was beautiful. I was actually praying with somebody about this last night, and yeah, that's I'm somebody who never was Christian at all. Growing up, I was very much a science guy. I was very much a Redditor. There's no sky, Daddy. That's silly. That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of had my own sort of development and experiences in life. And I think I mentioned this to Nico on our podcast, but I've been clean off of drugs and alcohol for almost 10 years. And like my sort of introduction into spirituality, I guess, was through a 12-step program. And yeah, I'm so grateful for it. And miracles can happen, and miracles defy logic. And, they say that, it's something is impossible, but like God can do the impossible, and God likes to show that the impossible is possible, but it's only through him, guys. It's only through him that's going to happen. So anyway, I'm sure we'll talk more about that. Mr. Randy Hilliard.
Before we bring him on, we got
Right.
more. This is just stopping. I got to stay on top of these. Patriot Helper, $50. Thank you very much. Love you, Greg, is his message. And an anonymous giver, another $50. You're in the hands of the great physician and the earthly care of one of the best oncologists, Dr. Mackus, and other physicians you trust. May God bless you. My gosh, thank you, Canada. We're now over $9,000. We're flying right to 10,000. And Randy Hilliard, he is here, the man himself, and he can talk to Greg Wycliffe now. So, Randy, thank you for joining us today.
Well, it's great to be with you fellas today, and not breaking the law while we're doing it. For a change.
Darn, that would have been good.
But I wondered, maybe we should sing. Is Greg going to do another hockey song with us today, or I don't know if everybody saw the great parody song that Greg and I debuted a couple of weeks ago. So
yeah. So for those who don't know, Randy reached out to me, and he's like, "Listen, have you heard of Buddy Was His Name? Have you heard of Buddy Was His Name?" And I'm not well versed in Canadian history and art as much as I'd like, obviously. Because Randy's like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Buddy Was His Name is like, they're a Canadian icon group. They're a trio from the East Coast who write these kind of like, quirky folk songs, I guess. And so Randy introduced me to this song, "Is You Happy? Is You Happy?" And he had the idea of the chorus being, "Is you happy that we won the hockey game?" Because at that point we had won the hockey game against the States. And everybody was like, "We're the best country ever because we won the hockey game." And it's like, this country sucks right now. All of our leaders are terrible. What do you mean? Like, can we just get off the couch for a minute? Like, it's not all about winning the hockey game, guys. But
Greg, you should maybe if Greg or Kate is still watching, maybe you should play the song that you and my dad did together just to give him a laugh, because it is very funny. And I have to say, like, the funniest part of it is that, like, I grew up with Randy, obviously, and like his singing in that video that you did together, it's literally every car drive I ever did, every road trip I ever did with Randy.
Well, if you can cue that up, we'd absolutely play it. But before that, Melissa's got to run. So, Melissa, let's go ahead and drop you onto a screen here and have a little goodbye from you.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I'm like I said, you could put us in a room and we would not have any shortage of things to say together. And I think the reminiscence is good for all of our hearts, and really inspiring. That's how we inspire other people, is the way that we lead. So let's be good leaders. Have a great day. I'll still be watching. I'm just not going to be live on camera. Maybe I'll hop on again later and see where we're at. Have a great day.
And maybe can you bring that husband of yours with you as well? We'd love to see him, a survivor. We'd love to hear from him. Thanks, Melissa. All right. Wow. We're so touched. Like, we're over 9,000. We're going to hit 10 very soon. So Canadians, keep it up. That was an amazing 10-minute block. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised when you have some prayer, you have some God, and you have Melissa on the screen. $1,500 in 10 minutes. That was amazing. Greg, I'm going to throw you on. It looks like you got something on your screen here.
Yeah, I do. So this is it. I won't perform it live. I won't do it justice. This stream is about Greg Arcade. He's much more talented than me. I don't think a live performance would do it any justice. So we'll just play the piece that I released.
And on your side, hit that full screen, and then we'll actually go full screen. There you go.
Absolutely. But yeah. Well, I'll just let it speak for itself. Here we go.
Hey, buddy, who are you voting for this election? It's just this week. Are you going to be voting for what's his name over there? Or are you going to be voting for that other fella? regardless, let's be happy because we won the hockey game.
Thank you, Mr. Hillier.
We're in a trade war because Trudeau and Ford. So much I can't afford. This beer is getting warm. Soon we'll all be broke. But that Donald Trump's a joke. But I'm not feeling low because everybody know that we're happy. We got to be happy because we won the hockey game. Yeah, we're happy. We got to be happy because we won the hockey game. What happened to this town? Now everybody's brown. My kids can't buy a home. Where'd all the jobs go? The government's full of crooks. They always cook the books. Now folks all live in tents because they can't pay the rent. But we're happy. We gotta be happy because we won the hockey game. Yeah, we're happy. We gotta be happy because we won the hockey game. We gotta go to the polls. If you're in Ontario, we gotta go and vote. That's all we know to. Hey, but the hockey game's on, eh? So we're happy. We gotta be happy because we watched the hockey game. Yeah, we're happy. We gotta be happy because we won the hockey game.
You got to be 100%, I suppose.
Amazing. What a
That's
performance by
awesome.
Randy. Listen to those pipes, those singing, those that voice of yours, Randy, is incredible. We got to be
It's
doing more.
very distinct and very unique, is what I'm told.
Right.
That's
That's
awesome.
right.
And quite the message too. Yeah, we all got happy over that, but everything else, the tents, all the other problems, just forget about that, right? That was
Well,
wonderful.
I bet if you polled Canadians, and asked them, "Hey, did you hear about the hockey game?" And they'd be like, "Of course." And it's like, "Hey, did you hear that there was a provincial election?" They'd be like, "What are you talking
Where?
about? There's an election?" Yeah, where you live in Ontario.
Yeah.
It affects who is in charge. Actually, it's a whole thing. We
Yeah,
have these
and
elections and everything.
the secondary bonus, you got to learn about Buddy What's his name and the other fellas now as well, Greg. That's
Oh no, of course,
and
No,
we're getting-
I'm very grateful.
we're getting you cultured in Canadian culture here while we're at it.
So
And I do think that is part of I was talking about like the problem of Canada being a deep spiritual one, and it is a lack of knowing who we are. It's a lack of knowing where we came from. It's a lack of understanding our history and culture on a deeper, more automatic level. And it's actually very what's the word? It's very disappointing, I guess, if I reflect upon what I learned in school about Canada and Canadian history. I could Terry Fox were a cultural mosaic that got drilled into my head for sure.
Mhm.
Vimy Ridge, Juno Beach, that's it. Speed run. That's like kind of the whole thing. And I guess like there's so much more that's missing there. And if you compare it to America, actually, this is kind of this might be kind of like out of left field, but I think it really kind of demonstrates the point, which is if you know the comedians Shane Gillis and Louis C.K., they did this big long podcast series together where they go over every single American president. And, they're goofballs, they're comedians, but they're actually very well versed in American history. They know a lot about American history and these different presidents. And I was fascinated by this podcast. It was because they made it funny. They talked about how, American presidents are either like a badass cowboy or they're like a boring nerd. And there's kind of like a back and forth with the country throughout its history of these different American men leaders who defined the nation and how all the wild shit that they did, like the crazy lore and history of like, what makes up the fabric of America. And obviously I enjoyed watching it, but there was a kind of like the also after the sort of afterglow of like, I don't know anything about a Canadian prime minister's hardly at all. I know some of them are on the money. I know that, like it's really sad though. It's really sad how little I know on a more deeper level of Canadian history. And I do would like to change that somehow. Randy.
I think we're doing.
Yeah, I think we're doing that, and like there is such a wealth of talent and artistic talent in Canada, and um, and I don't know where to begin, but every we used to have all these kitchen parties, and everybody would have fiddles and guitars, and it was just commonplace in every weekend, or very frequently, and uh,
That's where Dad learned to sing.
Yeah, and let me just jump in quick. I got to do a couple things quick, and then we'll get right back to that story, Randy. Thank you to Janice Strasbourg, $75. Thank you so much. Becky McCaffrey for the 4th time today, $50. For Greg and his continued fight for freedom, truth, and love. May God hold you and your family in his arms. Thank you very much, Becky. And Nico's got to run. The storm's coming. His dog is letting him know it's time to go. So, Nico, let me jump you on, say goodbye, and then we'll get right back to Randy.
Yeah, I apologize for cutting this off, but there's a tornado alert here, so I'm just gonna pack the rest of my gear and go drop it in the truck in case we have to run out of here. But yeah, my dog's freaking out, so that's never a good sign. But I wanna thank Jason and Greg for having me on. Thanks for inviting me. Nice meeting you, Randy. Nice meeting you, Chelsea. And yeah, continue the good work. I love to hear people talk about Christ in Canada. I'm in Alabama right now, so it's just normal down here. But unfortunately, in Canada, that's not the case. So thanks for the prayer. Thanks for praising the Lord. It's a beautiful thing.
God bless you, brother, and thank you for your time today. And you're going to see a lot of Nico in the future, Canada. Nico is up to some great things, so stay tuned to that. And it's great to have you on, Nico. You have yourself a great day. Take safe. And make sure you go away from the tornado. Don't go towards it. It's not a good idea.
I have a GoPro, so maybe I'll leave the wife, go away, and I'll go towards it.
Hey, you got the link, so send it to us.
Nice, Nico.
Yeah, hey, stay safe. Thank you very much, Nico. Sorry about that, Randy. Let's go ahead and drop you back on and finish that story.
Yeah, no, it's no problems. It's just it's a pleasure to be on and helping out in any way I can. Greg's been a great freedom fighter in Canada, and it's not surprised me that Canadians are coming together and helping out and being generous and charitable and fighting for good fella and a good cause. So it's and it was a great opportunity for me to take a break from pruning the trees and doing some of the chores around. Needed to take a break. So what better thing to do on a break than recognize great Canadians like Greg and see if we can help him out and help his family out.
Absolutely. And what I'm going to do is I'll put another donation up, and then maybe we'll do a quick song from Greg Arcade again, because I actually queued up, if you're going to be dumb, you got to be tough, which is a very, very Canadian thing to do, right? So if you got to be tough. But Greg, before we do that, I'll turn it to you. But Azario with $25, praying for you and your family. Greg, thank you very much, Azario, big time watcher of our show. He's a good friend. And in fact, this microphone I'm talking into, a gift from Azario. Thank you, Azario, very much for that.
Nice.
And you're a great man. I love that man. He's out in Ontario. So if you know him, give him a hug. But yeah, go ahead, Greg. And then maybe we'll throw another one of Arcade Songs on.
Yeah. Thanks, Azario. That's very cool. I have some of my equipment gifted from a friend, and it means a lot. But I wanted to ask Randy, because I think you actually weren't on the stream yet. We were talking about this Team Canada shtick being sold to us by all these traitorous politicians, and how there's this sort of anti-Americanism that I define it as, like, unfortunately it manifests almost like as an anti-true patriotism. Were you here for that? I just want to
no, but that topic is near and dear, and we should recognize it's a bad one. This view that to be Canadian, you need to be anti-American, and that is essentially the only way many Canadians identify what a Canadian is, that we're anti-American, which is not the way I was raised anyway, Greg and Jason.
No, me either. No, me either. And it breaks my heart to even see it. And we heard it from Trudeau immediately because he started to say, buy Canadian and all this kind of stuff and started that rhetoric like right away. And then when Trump gave us that 30-day reprieve, it said, okay, we got 30 days, fix your stuff. They didn't even bother trying. You just saw grocery stores. You saw the alcohol leaving the shelves. It was just, I'm so embarrassed. And that's the word I used on my show, embarrassed, when I started to see that creeping up.
Yeah, no, this is their they have suitably confused Canadians to believe that rallying around these corrupt politicians is the same as rallying for the flag, and it's obviously it's not. And I see this as what the real battle here is. It's not really a trade war. The battle we're in is Canada is fighting Trump's attack on globalism. And globalism is how our politicians have made off like bandits. It's how they have distorted and destroyed our culture. And globalism is more important to our politicians than prosperity or for Canadians, and they will take us down their dark path if we allow them on this fraudulent trade war.
I'm just going to bring this up on screen real quick. I got this actually from Lee Stewie's Telegram, but she posted this in another image, and she's like, "Man, this really gives COVID lockdown vibes." Wow. And there is a lot of unfortunately, there's a lot of similarities. Where, during COVID, it was, hey, do you want to save grandma? Then you have to obey the government. If you want to save grandma, you have to wear a mask, get vaccinated, do all these things. And it gave, pleb, it gave lemming follower Canadians, listeners of the CBC, it gave them this project of, wow, I can make a difference. I can save lives. I'm going to wear a mask. I'm going to, I'm going to follow the mandates. And now with this trade war, it's like, wow, this is a project to fight for Canada. Okay, what do I need to do? Boo the American national anthem. I need to hate Americans. I need to fear Americans. I need to not buy their booze. Like, this is how we're going to win. And in both cases, it's obeying the government's dictates that are totally misguided and totally not good for the country. And so it's very similar in that way. You know what I mean? Like we're kind of giving Canadians this project to like save grandma or save Canada, when in reality, actually, this is just a bunch of misguided directions from our corrupt leaders once again.
Absolutely, and we also saw the empty shelves during COVID and the lockdowns as well, and that we should be sort of thankful that the shelves are empty. Like, it's such a bizarre parallel and to think that not drinking a Jack Daniels is going to make me a better Canadian, or whatever. I don't drink Jack Daniels anyway, but like, we are such like, even the preeminent identifying Canadian beer is Molson Coors. Like, what are we going to do? Can we just get a Molson without the Coors part? Like, give me. It's just we're at the height of immaturity with this, but it's dangerous. It's for Canadians to be rallying around these traitors that we call politicians.
Well, what they're rallying around right now, what they're rallying around right now is Greg. Okay, so Alistair Smith, $25. Bless you and keep up the fight. Thank you, Alistair. Spencer and Michelle with $300. We love you. They sent to Greg. And then Silverman and Buddy, $300. Thank you for being there in the front lines fighting for Canada. Now we stand in the front lines fighting for you, brother. Thank you very much, Silverman and Buddy. That brings us to just about $100 away from 10,000. We are almost at 10,000.
Silverman and Buddy is he's a fan of mine. He's a great member of the community. We love him. And And did you want to say something, Chelsea? I was gonna segue it into a
Yeah,
arcade,
just quickly, like, because we're gonna do a song here, but I just want to say quickly, I've known lots of people who have gone through cancer treatment. I've known too many people my age whose children have gone through cancer treatment, and almost every single one of them has had to go to the United States for treatment. And so, while we're talking about this issue of Canada and the United States and our sort of self-righteous indignation towards America, they actually have much more advanced cancer treatments than we do here. And if some of this money can go towards Greg receiving proper care in the United States healthcare system, then, I think that we all need to reflect on what our relationship is with the United States, and, the fact that they actually do have things that we don't have here. So, this animosity, this antagonistic hatred towards them, there have been so many Canadians saved by going to America for cancer treatment. And if some of this money is able to go towards that for Greg Arcade, then, I'm going to be a very happy person. And I hope that everyone has a minute to reflect on, what they're trying to stir up right now between, well, it's not even between Canadians and Americans, what they're trying to stir up within Canadians to make them hate Americans even more. So, like, let's keep raising money. Let's keep the dollars flowing so that if Greg needs to go down to the United States to get proper care, he's going to be able to, and we're going to be able to thank our American brothers and sisters when he does that.
God bless. And at this current rate, what we've done now is we're at the 5-hour mark. We've added $5,000 to that Give Send Go. So if we keep this up, we could possibly add $7,000 more as we go for 7 more hours. And then I think on that note, let's go ahead and introduce Greg's next song. This is go ahead, Greg.
I was gonna do one. So speaking of the sort of sentiment of appreciating America as opposed to, like, hating it and vilifying it all the time, and I especially feel, I can't speak for all of Albertans, Jason, but I've certainly seen a sentiment of wanting to become the 51st state by a lot of people who live in Alberta. And it speaks to a lot of, how hopeless we feel with what we have here in Canada for various reasons. And we could have a whole discussion on what we do like America, what we wish we had from America. But during COVID especially, there was a sentiment to leave Canada to go to America because there was more freedom there. And actually, Greg Arcade wrote a song about this called Idaho. Going to Idaho. So I thought, while we're on the topic, I thought that would be a good one to listen to from Greg Arcade. This is Idaho from Greg Arcade. Greg Arcade with Idaho. That reminds me of during the pandemic when people were thinking about maybe we should get the heck out of this place. Did that ever cross any of your minds during lockdowns? Hey, maybe I need to get an RV and get the heck out of here. Maybe it's time to.
It did. I almost left Canada in 2021. And I had a job lined up in Portland, Oregon, of all the places of the world. And we sold everything. We packed up everything. And quite literally the day after the house closed, I got a call and they said, hey, yeah, you're more than welcome to come here, even though you're going to be remote. There's no office because we're all doing remote. We want to put a couple holes in your arm first, though. And nope. So what we did was said, sorry, no thanks. But now we had some money in the bank, but no home in Ontario. And you can't buy back into that market. There's no way buying it back into that market. So that's when we sat down and said, okay, well, where are we going to go? And it turned out to be Nova Scotia or Alberta. And here we are. We moved to Alberta in 2021. But yeah, they want to put a couple holes, even though we're going to be remote and I'm tech and I'm not meeting the public or sitting with anybody. And it was a high paying job. Like it was a very good opportunity for us. And we said, no, we're not doing that.
Wow.
It was close. It was close. Now I have a couple
Dad,
of
you're
suggestions.
muted. You're muted, Dad.
I'll bring him on in a second, but we'll have some suggestions. But I'm working on Jamie Knight about maybe trying to get him to come on. He's done some music for the Freedom Staff, so I'm going to work on that. And Shadow Davis will be joining us shortly, it looks like, and
Nice.
some more friends will be coming on.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Randy, do you want to jump in there?
You're muted, sir.
There we are.
You got it.
Well, I think that's, that Greg song and what you were just mentioning, Jason, like if it didn't cross your mind and if you didn't give it serious consideration to leave this country in those days, there would have been something seriously wrong with you. Like even many of the people who, let's say, weren't as strident or as passionate about freedom, many of them also left. So, and I think that's Greg captured that with his music as well. Like everybody was, I don't know of anybody that didn't give it strong consideration. When to leave, how to leave, and of course, a great many Canadians did leave and are still leaving. I was just speaking with some people who live not far from me, and they've sold out or selling out and going to Costa Rica. And I've met Canadians who have relocated to Romania, to Thailand, to Venezuela. Like it's quite unfortunate that so many. I say it's unfortunate that these are good Canadian people, and they don't find that it was worthwhile to stay in Canada. So, but and I think Greg captured a lot of that with his music as well, and will be those things will they become now a record of COVID for Canadian history. Things like time to go to Idaho for us all. And
that was a good.
Hopefully, we'll never repeat that. The mistakes that led to great songs like going to Idaho.
Absolutely. And we just have a friend that just popped on, Mr. Leighton Gray, King Counsel, a lawyer here in Alberta. And he is the lawyer behind the Ingram decision. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but here in Alberta, the orders that came out of our healthcare professionals was illegal. And thanks to Leighton Gray, and he took them to court, he was able to get the Ingram decision, and justice was served here. As soon as his camera pops on, we'll go ahead and put him back on the screen, but I want to acknowledge him. And also, Leighton, if you can hear me, we are on YouTube. So I know you're going to mention a couple things, but let's try and stay YouTube friendly around the medication. But it's great to see Leighton joining us.
Hi there. How are you?
Hey, we're good. How are you?
Not bad. Just enjoying Saturday here at home. So very sorry to hear about Greg's situation, and but it is wonderful to hear that people are getting together and showing support for him.
Nice hat.
It captures the general sentiment of the crowd that I run with in Alberta.
And we
So
were just mentioning that because they were just saying, Alberta, statehood, all this kind of stuff. Then poof, there you are. It's kind of like right on cue. You want to kind of just touch on that subject because we were just talking about how we actually love America. We don't hate
yeah.
America. And we're very embarrassed at how some Canadians are responding, especially the political class who wants us to actually hate America all of a sudden.
Yeah, I like Randy. I'm probably like Randy in the sense that I probably do a dozen media appearances on U.S. programs, whether it's radio or podcasts, etc. And they want to know what's really going on with Canada because, of course, all they hear about is the rubbish that's on CBC and CTV and Globe bullshit. Sorry, I know it's a family show. And so they don't really know. And of course, what's coming out of the mouths of our politicians. And so they don't really have a sense of what's happening on the street. What's the pulse of Canadian life? How do we feel about Americans? And the truth is everyone here knows is that there's much more shared values with Americans than dissonance. And it really makes no sense for us to be in any sort of a trade war. That only seems to benefit the political class and the globalist agenda that really has been consummated and has taken over Canada now that we have an unelected prime minister. I hesitate to even call him that, who's never even been elected to the exalted position of community dog catcher, but he is our quote unquote prime minister. So we have an unelected prime minister, we have an unelected cabinet, we have an unelected governor general. We have unelected bureaucrats making all of our laws and controlling our speech. We have an unelected elitist judiciary. And yet Team Canada is telling us, yay, rah, rah, Team Canada. Let's fight for this free and democratic society. And frankly, right now, for Albertans especially, but I think for many Canadians, Canada feels like living in a loft apartment over a great party. We hear all the noise. We know they're having a lot of fun down there, and we want a taste of all this freedom and all this prosperity, and of course, all the great things that Trump is doing. Not the tariffs, but the other stuff. All these executive orders, banning wokeness, drill baby drill, getting rid of diversity, inclusion, equity in the military. Of course, DOGE, which is sorely needed in Canada. But of what we see in Canada is that everything is moving in the opposite direction. And, in Alberta, it's really not much different. I'm part of a constituency association for the UCP, which is the party of Danielle Smith, our premier. And we had our annual general meeting last night in Bonnyville. And I would say there were about 1/3 as many people there as last year. And when it was announced that the premier was coming up to Bonnyville for a fundraiser on the 8th of May, it was that clap that you hear on the Weiser whiskey commercial. There was no standing ovation. And so there's coming back to your question, Jason, I think people are very, very disillusioned. They're upset. Some of them feel openly betrayed. I know many of the people who respond to you on social media and who follow your show, they feel like, Danielle Smith really, it has not come as advertised, that she's become a consummate politician, somebody who follows polls. I've called her Kenny 2.0. And I really don't think that that the politicians, even in Alberta, have a sense of what Canadians really want. And I think what they really want is what someone like Randy would provide, and that is a clear choice. The Americans last November, they were able to make a clear choice between liberalism and a brand of conservatism, which is MAGA style republicanism, and that made that election very compelling. But it gave the Americans an ability to make a real choice. Well, in Canada, we have variations on a theme. We have the Liberal Party of Canada, which is obviously a far left globalist party. Of that, there's no question. I think they're even more far left than the NDP. But then when you look at the quote unquote Conservative Party of Canada, there's very little about that party that, in my respectful view, is conservative. I mean, honestly, the litmus test for me is whether or not you support giving more money to Zelensky. And if you do, then you cannot call yourself conservative. And Mr. Poilievre and his party are not really in favor of reducing the size of public service. They want to keep us in the Paris Climate Accords. They want to keep equalization the way it is. His deputy prime minister is going to be someone who is an LGBTQ plus activist. So really, Canadians, we're looking forward to an election. We want to vote ourselves out of all this mess. But I think that's a fallacy. I think it's a bit of a trick that's being played on us, because really Canadians do not have a clear choice. The only existing party whose policies that I think accurately reflect my own and that of many conservatives is the PPC. But even there, unfortunately, Mr. Bernier, although I like the man and I've had him on my show and I think he's a compelling figure, I think everybody can see that he's not the leader that's going to bring that party out of obscurity. What I'm hoping and praying for in Canada, quite frankly, and I think our only quote unquote political salvation would be if we could have somebody emerge who would be like a Javier Milei, who would be like a Donald Trump, somebody from outside of the political class, outside of the political system, who would offer Canadians a clear alternative. But, on the whole, I think Canadians really misunderstand what's happening in Canada. We are not the nation that we were. That's very, very clear. And I happen to think that Donald Trump is very serious about a 51st state. Not necessarily 51st state, but about aligning closely Canada with the United States, which is where we should be. Because I think he's recognized and he's brought to the fore something that is true, and it's bubbling beneath the surface that most Canadians don't want to recognize. And that is our country is controlled by people from outside this country. On one view of the matter, an accurate view of the matter, Mark Carney is a foreign national. Many of the people in his party and his cabinet are, and so they're not governing Canada for the good of Canadians. That hasn't happened for a really, really long time, and it's not going to happen with any of the existing parties. So, in a nutshell, that's why many Canadians are looking elsewhere. They're looking to Donald Trump and the possibility of joining the U.S. for some route out of this madness, for an escape hatch. Because unfortunately, for many Canadians, especially conservatives, there doesn't seem to be any way out.
And that is a sentiment here, absolutely. And I don't understand why people are so upset. Like when we talk, like Leighton, I've gotten death threats. When we just talk about the idea of statehood, people say you're splitting up Canada, you're a traitor, you're treason, and all this kind of stuff. And it's crazy. Before we jump to that, I just want to acknowledge our anonymous giver of $25. Thank you very much to this anonymous person. There's a lot from the anonymous person. And Roskin, $50. Never say whoa in a tight spot. Thank you very much for that, Royskin. And we just have our first Manitoban that's just popped in as well. Mr. Shadow Davis himself has just showed up, and I want to kind of acknowledge that he's in the room from Manitoba. Thank you very much for joining us.
See you.
Thanks for asking, you guys. I'm very dismayed to hear about Greg's diagnosis. I only just got that information from you, Jason, a couple of days ago, and didn't know if I was going to be able to make it this afternoon, but I canceled some plans to get on with you guys here, and I would be streaming to my platform, but you've already reached the maximum number, so I'm going to have to wait until somebody shuts theirs down before I can put mine back up. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes here to get some folks, more folks donating. I've watched for the past hour, and it's amazing to see how many people are stepping up in support.